Attendu que le Canada est fondé sur des principes qui reconnaissent la suprématie de Dieu et la primauté du droit, prenons un moment de réflexion personnelle. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much, everyone. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. We have a few additions for council members. Under item 18C, Councillor Lorraine, announcement for Pout Masters. And under section 18D, under Councillor Associé for Earth Day. Anything else? Conseiller Brisson?
Pour 18 aussi.
Oui.
Ça serait juste pour les effets de la nouvelle réglementation pour la boisson dans les parcs.
OK. En dessous de conseiller Brisson pour la boisson dans les parcs. OK. Une autre chose, oui?
Oui, ça serait juste pour demander si on pouvait mettre l'item Q tout de suite après la présentation, après A. C'est juste qu'on a plusieurs représentants pour
Nouvelle désignation du centre récréatif d'Anthony.
Ça pourrait mettre tout de suite à la deuxième terme.
OK. So, Q va aller tout de suite après l'item A. Membres du conseil sont corrects avec ces ajouts? All those in favor? Okay. We'll move on. Adoption of the agenda. A motion to approve the agenda as amended. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Associé, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interests. I see none. Item 7, adoption of minutes. Regular council minutes of April 1st, 2019. Motion to approve the following minutes as presented. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. Questions, comments? No? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 8, presentations. We have none. 9, délégation. On n'a pas. Item 10, consent items. Motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented. Item A, minutes of the Township of Russell Public Library Board of February 21st, 2019. Item B, minutes of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell February 20th, 2019. Item C, minutes of the Russell Historical Society from March 11th, 2019. And item D, minutes of the Limoges Citizens Committee of March 12th, 2019. Need a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Associé, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. So we'll move on to reports from departments and council committees. Item A, Heritage Conservation District Study. The council receives report PD 28-2019 dated April 15, 2019 concerning the consultation and study findings of a potential heritage conservation district in Russell and direct staff on whether to proceed with the next step of the proposed heritage conservation district designation process. Monsieur le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
Bonsoir. bonsoir, membres du conseil. Donc, on n'a pas une présentation de PowerPoint ce soir, on a le rapport qui est présenté devant vous.
Oui.
Mais j'ai avec moi M. Mark Brandt et Carly Farmer de la firme MTBA qui ont produit le rapport, qui sont there to the rescue of the Prescott-Russell for response and to questions or more specific information that we'll be able to answer based on the presentation of this report. So, as member of council, remember in 2018, as part of the budget, we had the council's direction to proceed with the initial stage of the Heritage District. So basically, that's what we retain at this point, MTBA, and they've conducted the report that you have attached as part of the presentation of this report. So MTBA was retained to conduct the preliminary heritage evaluation property in Ambrose and Russell, initially back in 2015. We've concluded that, and then in 2018 we started the new project and just focused on the Heritage District of Russell. As part of their mandate, we conducted 3 public meetings. So the first public meeting was in 2018 in July. At that public meeting, there was 20 members of the community that attended the meeting. There were some members of council and as well the mayor. The general sentiment that was expressed by the participant at the meeting that was that this resident felt strongly about preserving the small village character of the village of Russell. Then we conducted a second public meeting and public consultation in November of the same year. The second public consultation meeting was held in November, and it was to provide an overview of the consultant work completed to date and provide an opportunity for the community to discuss and provide input on the key interests of and issues of the village that was district that was proposed. So we had a lot of discussion at that meeting, and it was really positive feedback as well. After that public meeting, we had a survey that was done online. The survey was conducted for about 2 months, and we had 2% of the population that participated to that survey, and 70% of the respondents they were unaware of the study that we're trying to do. So we tried to increase the awareness about the Heritage District as part of that public meeting and as well as the process. And less than 15% felt that a study was not important to them. So those are percentage that we really considered moving forward. 88% would potentially support an HED, but they were waiting for more information. After that, we had a third public meeting, and that public meeting was conducted in February 2019, and basically the report was presented to the public, and there was a lot of questions, and there was also the draft that was available from the report. At that public meeting, we were requested to send a public notice by mail to each of the property that were in the proposed district, and which we've done. So there's about 200 notices that were sent to the resident that were affected and being part of that district. Based on that, we've received 5 written emails and 2 phone calls based on the proposed district, and every responses were pretty positive. So next page of the report, so you can see that we have the phase study. So if you could go to the report where there's a blue rectangle. So it shows exactly where we are right there. So the orange dot is where we are right now. So what was done based up to date. So we have a fully report 100% completed based on and again, that report was really detailed and attached to my report that was produced. And we also had the property evaluation that always council has access to. That was also attached to this report. And as you can see, the next stage of the Heritage District conservation is to basically the plan phase and the guidelines, to produce the guidelines. So the next page of the HCD designation process is the development of the HCD plan and guidelines. So the plans and guidelines would detail what feature on each property are protected and guidelines for development while protecting these features. Similar to the HCD study phase, the HCD plan and guidelines phase would include a number of opportunities for the public engagement and public feedback. So, we are, putting in place a communication strategy that would need to be developed with the consultant moving forward. However, we hope to build a communication and public consultation that was done in phase one. So right now, we have 57 people that are part of our list. So every time that we have a report, every next step, and in any next phase of the report, we are informing by email those 57 people that are on a communication list. So we are pretty close to the people that are involved as part of the process, and that list keep expanding every time that we do public meeting and public feedback. So the bylaw, once final, will have to, so once the HCD plan and guidelines are developed, so usually it takes 6 to 7 months for that HCD to be completed. It will be presented to council again for a decision on whether or not to proceed with the HCD. Designation process would be to approve the plans and guidelines. If council passes a designation bylaw and adopt the HCD plan, community member have the opportunity to appeal the decision to the local planning appeal tribunal. The bylaw, once final, once there's no appeal or the appeal are dealt with, then it would be registered on title, and affected property and notification of passing would be sent to the Ontario Heritage Trust. So, next stage of the report, you see what would contain the HCD. So you have the content of the historical district plan. Then you would have the introduction, the objective, and the goals of the heritage district, and then the district policy, and then the design guidelines. The design guideline was the most important thing that people were asking about in the public meeting. So this is what consists the next stage. So we don't know if officially what would be maintained and conserved, but this is what we would find out in the next stage of the report.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about creating a district, it's not as strict as designating a specific property as a historical building.
Yeah.
These are just more generic feel of the area, as opposed to specifically saying this property has to keep this, and this.
Exactly, yeah, you're correct. So I don't know if council remember, but as part of the report, which was pretty, really in details, there was a map that was showing each property and how they were identified. So we had that map in the report, and it looks like this, and there was like a red, green, and gray, and each property were classified on either category 1, 2 to 4, 2, 3, 4, and basically each property in the district were evaluated, and they were classified if they were contributing, not contributing, strongly contributing, or not contributing at all. Those 208 property were classified. And just to give a perspective of percentage, because I know that some members of council are like percentage, so we had 28% that were classified as 1, 22.5% at 2, 23% at 3, and then 26 that were not contributing at all. So basically, we have about more than 70% that are contributing to the district, and this is how we came up with the district as a whole. And you brought a good point in the sense that we're not just in the district, we're not looking at just specific buildings, but we're looking at open spaces, streetscape, and everything that comes as well as not just the specific buildings. So this is a component that is really important to remember, that when we're designing a district, it's just not buildings, but it's the character and the feel that you're coming out of that specific district.
Right, because that's an important point, because a lot of the people, when you talk to them about the Village of Russell, that's what they say, is they like the feel of it. They don't want to lose how it is now, and we know that if we have nothing in place, well, 20, 30 years down the road, it could completely disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good example right now is the Russell House, which was one of the oldest buildings in the village, and now essentially is clad and looks industrial.
Yeah.
It's completely lost that feel, and that's one of the reasons, is because we had nothing in place to be able to give some kind of standard to follow moving forward. Right?
Exactly. So moving forward, and I know that this report didn't contain all the information because we had that conversation this morning with the consultant. I don't know if you have more question about the next steps, but we have an example that we could show council of what could be included in the HCD and give more perspective of specifically what we would be looking for. I don't know if you want to see it or if you're.
Did members of council have questions about the report? Councilor Associate?
Question, merci. Yeah, the one question I had was just how was it evaluated, like whether it was somewhat contributing? I was looking at one property that was built in 1910, and they were saying it was somewhat contributing. And then I'll use the example of, in comparison with the veterinary clinic, which was built in 2000 and is a more modern building, but was also listed as somewhat contributing to the district. So I just was wondering how that evaluation was done.
So I'll let Mark answer that question.
Thank you, Councilor Associé. It's a great question because it can confuse people when you just look at on the face of it. The answer starts back to where Dominique was taking you, that for a district study, it's more about the public realm than private properties. That's not to say that buildings aren't important, and the buildings are a big part of it, but for example, it's not about the specifics of a building as much as what's it like to walk past that building when you're in the street. So it's more important to say, for example, the style or the age of the building is less important, and what's more important is how the building's character contributes to the overall character. And the overall character has more to do with the form of the building, the setback from the street, the amount of space around it. You need to think of urban design more than architecture, really. Another contributing thing to this, and then I'll come to the direct answer to your question, is that in this particular district, let me step back. Some heritage conservation districts are born out of the fact that somebody came along in the 1880s and built a whole several streets of houses and commercial buildings using the same brick or all in the Victorian style or whatever, and that's a character defining element. But that is not one of the character defining elements of this particular heritage district. This heritage district grew, evolved, and changed over time, and we have great examples of buildings from all periods, from the initial mill time of the sort of founding of the village to today. There are, and what they do to contribute to the overall streetscape or the overall feel of the district. Madame Tremblay talked about the survey, and the respondents said that an overwhelming 76%, it was the village ambience, setting, and sense of character, and I think that's what Mayor was just talking about. So you might think, oh, well, if it's 1910, it's got so much more history than in 2000. And indeed it does. But, and the history is a part of what the district is about. But the most important part is what's the character, what's the ambiance. So if a building contributes equally to that overall character of the district, regardless of its age or its style, that's how we would evaluate that. And that's why you might look at some of these things and go, well, this is a contemporary building. Or you might even look at it and say, well, this building, it's not really beautiful to look at. It's got kind of this addition here and that kind of tumble down porch there. But if you think of the overall form of the building and how it's meeting the street, I know, for instance, off the top of my head, Carly, I remember. Yes, we're going to talk about one more point about that too in a second, but there was a couple of properties on Concession Street that are very much contributing to the commercial character of the street, even though they're not beautiful buildings, but they are the right size, form, shape, setback. And so they really contribute. So if someone comes along later and says, oh, I've got a piece of property, a blank property here, an empty property, and I'm gonna build something on it, well, they can look to those, not for the beauty of their architecture so much, but their form and the scale, and things like that. Carly just reminded me, there is a third element. So when it comes to historic value, you're looking at design and physical value. You're looking at environmental and contextual value, which is what I've just been talking about. And then you're also looking at associative value. So if a very important person, a village founder, lived in this house for 50 years, you know, then that's an associative value. It doesn't have anything to do with the physical makeup or the context, but so that adds another layer of value. So sometimes it might not be much of a building, you know, a little ramshackle place that, but it's some important event or theme of the village character or person that is associated with that property, then that could push you up from, say, a lower number to a higher number in the scale.
Perfect. D'autres questions? Conseiller Brisson?
My concern of it is, it might have a lot of history, but if the house is like going down and it, like, there's no comeback to the house, so what, does it make a kind of restriction? Because the people cannot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in that district, if somebody wants to build, whether they have the right distance, but they want to build with the new style of houses compared to the other one, then I think they won't be able to do.
It's a really good question, and Madame Pomley has some examples to show you. Just before we get to those, I would add, what you'll find typically in the district plan and guidelines, which is the next step if we go there, is they'll say maintenance and repair is preferable to replacement. Preferable, not mandatory, preferable. If there is some element of a property or an entire property that is beyond repair, then what we're looking for as a replacement is something that's compatible with the character of its context in, let's say, a streetscape, or if it backs onto the river, you know, compatible with that character and context. Can it be, so for example, let's say it's the commercial street and you've got small buildings one after the other, flat fronts near the sidewalk, flat roofs, two-story. That's the character of that context. And the place that is beyond repair must come down. What do we replace it with? Well, think of what the character of the neighboring buildings are, and of the character of the streetscape. Those would be the guidelines, the very general guidelines of what the replacement building should be like. It doesn't mean you can't do something really cool and modern, even though there might be 100-year-old buildings next door. It's trying to get the character, this is a great example where in this particular district, you had a fine, probably late 19th century building with a traditional porch on the left-hand photo, and it wasn't built right beside it, but nevertheless in the district, not too far away, in a replacement building. What they did is they talked about the setback from the street, the height, so 2 stories, and they talked about architectural features. So you see on the left, there's a traditional porch feature. So the architect or the designer or the builder of the building on the right wanted to say, well, we're doing something modern, but we'll give you porch, but we want to give you our kind of porch.
But on that second, on the picture on the right, it's right in modern rear addition. you couldn't put that with the front, having the look of that house beside the other one. I'm taking the example that the house on the left-hand side is really like beyond repair, and the owner want to tear it down. They couldn't tear it down and build the style of the right-hand side.
I think the point is that you cannot, for example, as he stated, you have 2 stories, flat roof, flat roof, and then all of a sudden you build something completely
Yeah.
different. And is that the look, is that what we want? Well, that's what we've been allowing right now. Is that what we want to continue in our streetscape? De d'autres exemples, Madame Tremblay?
L'autre à la face, excuse. Il y a un 6 qui est encore. Yeah, this one.
So you can see in this example on the left, the image that has the X. First of all, it's not really the same scale. It's 3 stories instead of 2. Even if it was 2.5, even if the 3rd story had, dormers and a sloping roof, but no, it's 3, and it's very clearly different than its neighbors. And it's not so much about the architecture. It happens to be a different, more contemporary architecture, but that's not the reason it's not compatible. It's very skinny and tall. It doesn't have the same proportions. It doesn't have the same height. It doesn't even have the same number of stories. That's the reason it's not compatible, not because of the architecture per se.
Madame Tremblay?
Ce qu'on essaie de changer, c'est la perspective que les gens pensent qu'il faut reconstruire quelque chose qui a de l'air vieux. C'est pas ça du tout. Ce qu'on essaie d'expliquer, c'est plus que ça. C'est la localisation, la grosseur, la masse, la hauteur. Puis ça n'a pas besoin d'avoir de l'air comme un vieux bâtiment des
Ça peut être
années.
moderne, mais ça
Faut que ça rencontre le caractère de la rue, puis que ça respecte les bâtiments qui sont déjà existants.
And I give again, the Russell House is a perfect example where it doesn't suit at all the area that it's in.
Juste pour savoir si ça serait acceptable, parce que comme c'est là, par exemple sur la rue Craig, il y a 2 maisons qui se sont bâties l'une à côté de l'autre, style moderne, mais les autres, c'est toutes des bungalows, and back, comme la même distance. Ça serait-tu permis, même si dans le look, c'est pas exactement, un, c'est des vieux bungalows faits dans les années 70, 80, puis que l'autre, c'est style moderne avec plein d'abriques. Est-ce que ça serait permis?
Oui, c'est un parfait exemple de ce qui pourrait être acceptable, dans le sens qu'encore une fois, on reconnaît qu'on ne pourrait pas construire un look des années 60, d'un bungalow, mais c'est un étage qui respecte le même setback que les maisons qui sont déjà existantes, puis c'est pas quelque chose qui est disproportionné par rapport à ce qui est existant, fait que c'est un exemple parfait de ce qui pourrait être
Ça fait que ça, c'est
acceptable.
alloué. Puis donc, si tu ferais des rénaux, même si c'est en pierre, puis que là, il décide d'aller avec un vinyle ou quelque chose comme ça, il n'y aurait aucun problème, il y aurait le droit pareil.
Ça dépend de quelle maison on parle, parce que chaque maison va avoir des éléments spécifiques à chaque, qui va faire qu'il y a des éléments qui contribuent versus d'autres qui ne contribuent pas.
So, si tu avais une rue où que c'est toute la brique, tu ne veux pas arriver avec une maison et décider de mettre du vinyle dessus parce que it doesn't suit the streetscape. Would that essentially be something they'd be looking at, depending on which area it is?
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to materials, there's a couple of sort of rules of thumb that I think you're going to find if we go to the plan and guidelines, and that is, first of all, like the architecture itself, there's a range of materials that are used, but when we're trying to look at what is the character defining aspects of the district, what are the most common materials, whether it's a Russell brick or wood siding or there's several others as well. So if you wanted to come along and just do like a curtain wall house of reflective glass, well, that's not in keeping with the character of the village. There's another example on this page here, which maybe we could advance it to.
Yeah, that's
it, yeah. So on the right-hand side, now this is a commercial as opposed to residential, but we have both in this district, so the building in the middle, it doesn't use the exact old brick of the ones of its neighbors, but it uses like a masonry-friendly material. It's not the same size, or even stepping down between the higher and the lower one, higher one on its left and the lower one on its right. It's actually even a bit higher, but the sense of scale of those 3 stories, it still works. And so we're still going to have a fairly eclectic streetscape because that's the character that it is today. And that's one of the reasons why in a heritage conservation district like this, is it gives individual property owners quite a bit of flexibility about how they're going to put an addition on their place or a new building or whatever. I think that there's a lot of resilience in the district. So when we talk about on the 4th page of Madame Tremblay's report to you about what the mayor was talking about, the 76%, the village ambiance setting and sense of character, the resilience of having different architectural styles and even a few different materials, as long as we're generally in the character, it's not going to upset the character of the streetscape, let's say, as long as the form, the height, the setbacks, and those aspects are still respected.
Councillor Associate?
Yeah, just to add to that, because, you know, I think the feel of most people is they don't want to lose the character of the village, and that was the main idea behind this. But I'll use an example of one of the, on page 140 of the report, 1102 Concession Street. There's 2 houses, one on the corner of Concession and Craig that was renovated, and this house at 1102. Both totally renovated, nice new porch put on, but they kept the feel of the neighboring homes and the whole streetscape. And it's all new material, they put new windows in, and they just sort of kept the character of the home. And so I think that, to me, is my understanding of the objective of this project. So that's, you know, and I'm really pleased with that, because the houses, all the rest of the houses are quite old, and it just, they both fit in. They absolutely fit in. So, you know, you can make upgrades and fix a house up without changing the feel.
Thank you very much, Councillor Associate. Other questions from members of council? Councillor Tarnaski?
So just to confirm that I understand as well, because we're going at a district level, that means on the inside, in the private residences, they're not limited in any way. We're not controlling what materials they use and what they do inside, right? So
That's absolutely correct.
yeah, okay, great, thank you.
D'autres questions? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Madame Tremblay?
Yeah, so if we go back to the report in the financial implications, so as you know, as part of the budget of 2019, we had in the operational budgeted at $20,000 for that specific project. I underestimated the cost of the next steps. So the next step, since the ones that we're talking about since the beginning, would probably be about more 80,000. So this is something that I want to bring forward, because if council decide to move ahead, this is an expense that we would have to consider. We would be able to start the project in 2019 with that 20,000 that we have, but as part of the 2020 budget, 2020 year, we would have to plan for the remaining of the cost of the project. However, that 20,000 that would keep us going for that 2019 is not worth it to spend if we don't decide to move ahead with the next steps.
Okay. On that point, questions, Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand now with the fact that the next step is 20,000 will be okay, however, you don't want to spend that unless we commit to a further step. So, well, that's what you just said, because it's $80,000. So don't spend the 20 if you're not going to spend the 60. right?
Madame Tremblay.
So which step is that?
It's the same step. So we would start this year. So we would start the process, the same steps, so the HED plan and guidelines would be started this year, so all the field work and would be done this summer. And then as part of the budget 2020, we would add the remaining money that was not planned in the 2019 budget.
Okay, and then what does it come out to at the end? Like what are you gonna bring back at the end of the 2020 to recommend at that point? Like what's the outcome or the projected outcome at that point in time?
So you'll be looking for, I assume, the actual bylaw to be put in place and the study to be complete, and what council will approve as a historical district.
Yeah, so the plan would be presented to council with the guidelines, as well as the public consultation that we would go throughout, like as we explained in the report. So a communication strategy that we would have in public meetings as part of that plan that would be basically designed with the community, because it's something that the community would have an input as well. And then the plan and the guidelines would be presented to council, and then council would decide if we approve that bylaw that designate that district, and then the district would be designated. So basically, moving forward, the district is not designated, it's just that we have the guidelines and the plan in place and ready for council's approval.
Okay, further comment?
Just to supplement what Madame Tremblay said, the final deliverable is not only everything that Madame Tremblay said, and she checked off about 3 boxes there, but it also gives you the opportunity then, with the completed planning guidelines, once council has approved them, to take them to the Ontario Heritage Trust, who are under the act, under the provincial legislation. They're the arbiters of saying, yes, okay, you've done some good homework here. This looks solid. Okay, we go through with the designation under Part 5 of the Act. The other thing is that Madame Tremblay also talked about the importance of working with the community, that it's a community driven project, and the importance of the communication plan and the consulting and the engagement of the community. It's about 25% of the total cost is involved in making sure that happens.
Councilor Janowski?
So I'm just gonna ask, how did we go from 20 to 80 in this process? We just went through the budgeting, we went through the first presentation. Was there something that came up that made it go up 400%?
Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, it's basically, I had 20,000 in the 2018 budget, and in my estimates, I underestimated the next steps.
Okay,
So I just planned for 20, but it's actually 60, and so it was my mistake as part of the budget session.
80 or 60?
But yeah, 80 total.
80 total?
Yeah.
So you underestimate by 60?
Yeah.
Councilor Lorrain?
Don't wanna dwell on this, but shouldn't that have been on the report somewhere if you knew about it by the time this report was in last Wednesday? Like, wouldn't that be under financial implications? We have 20,000 that are in the budget, however, we're gonna need an additional 60, and we're gonna plan in 2020.
Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay?
So, as I just mentioned, this is a conversation that I had this morning with the consultant. There's a revised version of the report, which, after discussion with Monsieur Leduc, we've made it, a change to the financial and the recommendation if council would want to proceed this way. But basically, that's why I'm bringing up to council's attention, is I found out this morning, and again, I didn't plan
I guess I didn't hear
properly.
that this morning.
Yeah, so I heard, I had the discussion this morning about the 60, so that's why I, changed the report to, reflect it in the financial implication, and also changed the report to add a recommendation that if council decides to move forward, then we would have to be exempted under the purchasing policy, to not get 3 quotes and stuff like that. So this is in a supported document if council wishes to proceed this way. So my apology.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Quelque chose à ajouter? Conseiller Laurent?
So can we pull this one out separately from the?
Oui.
Thank you.
Madame Tremblay?
I don't know if the council would want to see or hear from, Mr. Grant, what consists of the $60,000? Why is it that amount of dollars, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just this morning when we were talking, I was explaining, first of all, the study is the easy part. Basically, the study gives us the opportunity to do the research, to do the initial field work, to do all the things that we need to be able to make up a basic decision or recommendation to council. Is what is here worthy of a Heritage Conservation District designation or not? And if it is, why? So, and the reasons are in that study. The character, the history, all of the different reasons. So great, so now we have that. So, but what happens? What we get from the basic fact to an actual working document that allows the municipality to manage change, not stop change, and to keep that ambiance, that village atmosphere that everyone wants to see, but without having the hard restrictions of freezing it in time like a museum, because nobody wants that, especially the property owners. So that's where the real creative and the real work has to come in. We have to do the next level of analysis to make sure we get it right. We have to do the design, the guidelines to make sure that they are right, that they're fair, that they're going to protect the character and the ambiance, but they're not going to be unfair to the property owners and have an undue level of restriction. And that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of expertise that pours into it. I mentioned that about 25% has to do with all of the elements that go into the public consultation. That's a time-consuming thing. That's estimating doing another 3 public consultation sessions. You can do it in less. We did the study with 3, and I think, as far as I understand, everyone involved felt that that was a success, that was the right amount of consultation. Now, when we go into the next level of detail, and we're getting into the guidelines, we felt that it's probably about the same amount would be about right, but it could be less. But that's about 25% of the overall cost. Each consultation costs in the order of $7,000. That's all the preparation, all the getting from the raw study to something that's presentable, getting ready for that, communicating that, getting the public consultation professional who sort of guides it, takes that out of the hands of the consultant, so the consultant really remains a third party, all of those things that go into that.
Okay, thank you very much. Other questions, comments, members of council? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, Madame Tremblay, Monsieur Leduc? No? Okay. We'll move on to the next item. We're going to item Q. Nouvelle désignation du Centre récréatif d'Embrun, rapport CAO 04-2019. Que le Conseil accorde une exemption aux articles 3, 4 et 5 du règlement 25-2011 de la politique de nommer les parcs et les installations récréatives, et que le Conseil convienne que l'on procède à renommer le Centre récréatif d'Embrun pour le Centre communautaire Camille Piché, et que l'administration débute la planification d'un tel événement et qu'un budget soit préparé pour l'approbation du Conseil. Questions, commentaires, membres du Conseil? Conseiller Brisson.
Oui, c'est juste que je revoyais cette résolution-là, c'est pour nommer le centre récréatif, mais dans autre option à la recommandation, le premier terme, ça dit renommer le centre récréatif d'Embrun à Centre Camille Piché, tel que demandé par le groupe de citoyens. C'est pas une autre option, c'est celle-là qu'on veut avoir. Là.
Non.
On
On
sait
a
pas.
ajouté le centre communautaire, c'est ça, monsieur Leduc? Originalement, c'était juste le centre Camille Piché, mais
Ah, ok.
l'administration suggère le centre communautaire Camille Piché, juste
Ok.
pour que ça soit plus clair pour le monde qui vient de
Non, c'est-
l'extérieur de qu'est-ce qu'on parle.
C'est pour ça que j'avais pas vu ce mot-là, mais c'est pour ça que je demandais, là, c'est une clarification facile à comprendre.
D'autres questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter de l'administration? Monsieur Leduc?
Monsieur le maire du conseil, bonsoir. Donc, en fait, le rapport est pratiquement un copie-collé du document qu'on avait utilisé pour la première étape pour nominer la bibliothèque de Russell, la bibliothèque
La bâtisse.
en Saint-Pierre. Donc, c'est dans le même principe qu'on présente ici, parce qu'on vous demande la direction de procéder pour l'organisation, puis un budget va reporter au conseil.
OK. Parfait, merci, monsieur Leduc. Quelque chose d'autre du membre du conseil? Non, ça va faire partie de le vote qui s'en vient. Non, c'est beau. On va mouver le prochain item, item B. Water and Sewer Unit Allocation, Village of Russell Report PD 25-2019. The council received report PD 25-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves the allocation of the requested 2.05 water and sewer units for the property legally described as Part Lot 11, Concession 2, Part 1, part of Parts 2 and 3 on Plan 50R 8431, known as 1106 Concession Street in Russell. Questions, comments, members of council? Yeah. Monsieur Tomasky?
Excusez-moi si ça tombe mal, mais c'est juste pour expliquer le processus, parce que le monde qui attend ici, juste pour leur expliquer pourquoi on continue,
Oui.
puis ça même.
Pas de trouble. Essentiellement, comment ça marche, c'est que tous les rapports vont voter ensemble à la fin, en trouvant les résolutions. Alors, on passe par chaque dossier. La première item qu'on a vu, ça va être voté séparément, mais tout le reste va être voté ensemble. J'anticipe pas. On peut suspendre les règles de procédure si les membres du conseil sont corrects. We'll suspend the rules of procedure. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor to suspend the rules of procedure and vote on item 2 right away. So everybody's good with that, so we'll now vote on item Q. I need a mover and seconder to put on the table. Moved by Councillor Tonosky, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments? Yep. Yeah, so a registered vote. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Le centre communautaire will in future be named as Centre communautaire Camille Piché. So, si vous êtes la bienvenue de rester si vous voulez pour le restant de la réunion, mais je peux comprendre si vous décidez de partir.
Ça va prendre une vieille.
Puis, juste vous dire un gros merci d'avoir supporté Camille Piché, puis que c'est notre plaisir de supporter votre demande. Puis un gros merci.
On peut aviser une date que ça va être fait?
Ça va venir dans un rapport plus tard, mais on va planifier. Si je m'en rappelle bien, quand on a fait celui pour la bibliothèque pour M. Saint-Pierre, c'était une période d'à peu près 6 à 8 mois par le temps qu'on pogne les chiffres et tout ça. So, on va s'enligner.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Au nom de la famille et de la corporation.
All right, so item B, water and sewer unit allocation. Any questions? Anything to add from the administration? No? We'll move on to item C. Water and unit allocation, Village of Russell Report PD 26-2019, property owned by OCS Holding Group, Inc., care of Eric Brisson, known as 4044 Church Street in Russell. The council receives report PD 26-2019, dated April 15, 2019, and approves the allocation of the requested 28.6 water and sewer units for the property legally described as Block 60 on Plan 50M-309, known as 480-484 Church Street in Russell. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? No? Conseiller Lorrain?
Is this the existing building that's already built, or is this a new one that's gonna be built
Next
beside it?
Move on to item D, water and sewer unit allocation, Village of Russell Report PD 27-2019. Property owned by Melanie Construction Inc. and located at 392 and 394 Twilight Avenue in Russell. The council receives report PD 27-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves the allocation of the requested 1.3 water and sewer units for the property legally described as part Lot 99 on Plan 50M-332 located at 392 and 394 Twilight Avenue in Russell. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything from the administration? No. Item E, Water and Sewer Allocation Report PD 29-2019. The council receives report PD 29-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves the allocation of the requested 1.3 water and sewer units for the property legally described as Block 56 on Plan 50M-334 located at 451-453 Main Street in Emblem. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? We'll move on. Item F, pay list March 2019. The council receives the pay list for the month of March 2019. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? No. Item G, County Municipal Roads Transfer Funds Report FS 16 2019. The council receives report FS 16 2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the attached agreement, Schedule A, County Municipal Roads Transfer Funds Agreement, between the Corporation of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell and the Corporation of the Township of Russell, and the council further approves using the $377,061.96 funding available only in 2019 from the United Counties of Prescott to and Russell to finance the paving projects of Forest Road and McDonald Road. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? The standard? We'll move on. Item H, Industrial Land Sale Policy Report EcoDed 04-2019. The council receives the report EcoDed 04-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and the council adopts the proposed bylaw and repeals bylaw 39-2013 being a bylaw for the sale of industrial land, and the council adopts the proposed amendments to bylaw 43-2010 being a bylaw for the disposition of land for an addition to section 3.1.2. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Brisson, conseiller Soucy, and then conseiller Tarnowski.
Je ne sais pas si c'est sur quel règlement, mais faut attendre. C'est que ça disait dans le rapport que, comme c'est là, quand il y a une vente de terrain, qu'il faut que ça vienne au conseil. Puis que là, dans la chose, ça disait que c'était Mme Tremblay qui allait être l'unique avec les guidance. Mais je voyais que dans le rapport, il recommandait aussi que le CEO et le directeur de développement soient dedans. C'est pour ça que je me demandais pourquoi, c'était quoi qui avait poussé que dans le rapport, il recommandait les deux, et que là, qu'on allait avec juste le directeur.
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
Il me semble qu'on va essayer d'avoir vu ça.
So, essentiellement, qu'est-ce que tu demandes, c'est que le criteria qui est établi par le conseil, if it passes that criteria by a certain percentage, then you would have the authority to move ahead with the sale without having to come back to council. Is that correct?
Oui, c'est bien ça. J'essaie juste de voir où ça mentionne.
Je sais que c'était dans le rapport, mais peut-être qu'il est quand même assez long.
C'est comme un peu le même processus que les ententes de plan d'implantation. C'est moi qui ai l'autorité de signer une fois qu'on s'assure que ça rencontre tous les règlements de la municipalité. Donc, ce qu'on propose, c'est qu'au lieu d'avoir des rencontres de huis clos à tous les fois qu'on vend une propriété dans le parc industriel, si le conseil est d'accord avec les critères qu'on a établis dès le départ, puis que la vente ou l'achat rencontre les critères, à ce moment-là, j'aurais l'autorité de vendre la propriété. Mais aussi, on aurait l'obligation à tous les rapports de 6 mois de rapporter les ventes qui ont été faites. Donc, les membres du conseil verraient les ventes qui ne rencontrent pas soit le prix, soit la grandeur, ou soit les autres critères qui sont établis dans la politique.
Okay. Councillor Saucier?
Okay, I just had a question, was just in Appendix A 2.1, and he's saying like what was permitted and what wasn't permitted. And so I was just wondering why a vehicle or heavy equipment sales not permitted, or mini warehouse in the industrial park?
Madame Tremblay?
So the Appendix A is just the industrial land development review that was done by one of the consultants, but it's not actually what we have in our zoning bylaws.
Okay.
So it was just attached to the report to basically show what was recommended as looking at the criteria that we should look for, like job creation and stuff like that. And that's what was included as part of
Oh, I
our
see,
criteria,
okay.
but it's not the full report of what the permitted use. So the consultant was basically retained when we were doing our zoning bylaw to review the uses that were permitted in our industrial park and comment on it and see what would be acceptable and not acceptable. So that was the section of more specifically based on the use of what's permitted. But, oops, sorry, but it's just, that's regulated through our zoning bylaw.
Okay, and then in appendix B, the price per acre is going up that much? Yes?
Madame Tremblay?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, what we're suggesting is that right now the policy in place is $25,000 an acre. Based on the purchase that we've just completed and based on the price that we paid, to be able to not lose money every time we're selling a property, we're suggesting that if they meet the deadlines that right now we have, the 2 year start building, it's $45,000 an acre. And if they build into, starting construction at 1 year, then we would, reduce that property at $40,000 an acre.
And that's to keep in mind, the land that we had existing prior in the past, we paid considerably less
Yeah.
compared to what was paid now. So that's why the increase in price. Madame Tremblay?
And through Mr. Mayor, that's considered, taking into consideration that we're building the road, bringing hydro, gas, and fiber optic to the property line as well. So those costs we're taking into account to see how much it would cost per acre to recuperate the investment that we make. Yeah, right now, like Mr. Mayor just mentioned, is that the price for the acreage were, I believe, $8,000 an acre, and we paid considerably more for that property, so that's why we're also suggesting that 100% of the cost that we're getting would be to repay that debt of that purchase of land.
Question là-dessus,
Ouais, c'est une
Brisson?
question justement sur les coûts. Est-ce que ça a été calculé justement quand que tu prends le coût de mettre le chemin, les services, comme les choses, tous les autres services qu'on fait, à combien ça revient l'AUC pour faire sûr qu'on ne perd pas d'argent non plus? Là?
À 45 000.
C'est pour ça que le prix, elle inclut tous ces frais-là.
À 45 000, ça veut dire qu'on ne fait pas une scène, par exemple.
And that's what our mandate is not to make money out of the sell property, it's about
Creating
making sure
jobs.
that we're creating
That's
job and
good.
tax revenue long term, right? So that's why the criteria that we're, making sure that we're evaluating every time we meet with company, is making sure that we're not selling property to people that don't create job and that would not build building that are valued, that would bring back revenues in taxes. So that's why we're focusing on really selling the property at what is costing the municipality and making sure that we're investing long-term in job creation and tax revenues.
Yeah, we're growing our commercial industrial base while creating jobs as well.
Exactly.
Conseiller Tarnowski?
So I just, I guess, I'm gonna do this, so I'd like to take this one as outside of the,
Yeah, so
everything
vote
else.
separately?
Yeah. And it's just, not reflecting on anyone or anything in particular, but I'm just not 100% comfortable on the delegated authority piece. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions, Madame Tremblay?
Just to confirm, and maybe a question to Mr. Tarnowski, is would the delegated authority be to somebody else that you would be more comfortable with? Just to make sure that I understand the concern.
Sure, thank you. So it really, it's not, again, it's not because of any one person or any one department. It's just being a new counselor and going through the process and being involved in that discussion. I feel more comfortable with that than not knowing and then just getting it after it's done. So maybe a year from now, I might totally agree with it. I'm just not 100% comfortable with it, just from a process perspective.
Council, Madame Tremblay?
And just again to understand, so you would be more comfortable if this decision would stay to council? Okay.
If the, because council essentially sets the criteria, right now it's at 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, if, for example, if maybe we say it's a higher number, if, you know, if they're meeting 85% of the criteria, are we comfortable at that point, or it's just, you would prefer that it comes to council at every point in time?
Yeah, I don't feel at this stage that it's a burden for us to go to, in the closed session to discuss it. It's usually a very quick discussion. I'm more comfortable at this stage again because of my lack of experience in this. And then, maybe 12 months from this, I might change my opinion on that.
Thank you very much. Have we run into situations where time-wise, the purchase of the land was an issue with council meetings, that kind of stuff, Madame Tandy?
I would say no, because we're meeting every,
2 weeks,
basically
yeah.
2 weeks, it's not an issue. And, what I just wanna maybe reinforce where we're coming from is that basically every time that it's not gonna meet any criterias, which is, I would say 80% of the time, it would be still council's decision, just to make that clear.
Right.
So, for example, right now, we're meeting with clients that would like to purchase a bigger piece of property and that would not meet the 10% or would not, for us to sell it at $45,000 an acre would not make sense because we need to build less road or because they're buying bigger piece of property, so it would affect, and therefore I would bring a report to council saying it's not 45,000, they should pay less because we're building less road. So I just wanna make sure that members of council understand that as soon as it doesn't meet one of the criteria, then it's council decision at the end of the day still.
Conseiller Larin?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I appreciate where Councilor Ternowski's coming from. For me, I'm on the fence on it. I mean, like you said, we go into closed session, we deal with it. It's usually a fairly quick discussion. I don't know how many we've actually turned away in those circumstances, so, I mean, for the time I've been on council. So I'm more comfortable with it. Now, with the level, so is it the director of EcoDev that has the final, or is there a dual sign-off, EcoDev and CAO? Like, how's that gonna play out? Because maybe that's where there's a little more comfort level if there's the additional sign-off.
Mr. Leduc?
So from my perspective, I mean, in the report, there's no ambiguity, there was no mention of my name in there, so to Brisson's question, I'm not involved. I know we do a lot of delegations in the planning sections of our operations, and I'm comfortable with that also. I know that we had heard that we were looking to improve or cutting red tape from the process of businesses across. So this is kind of one of the red tapes, one of the timelines that we spent. So yes, we have maybe refused one or two requests maybe along the way, but not necessarily many of them. But in the process of thinking how can we do it differently, that's how we suggested this process. But we'll go with whatever council direction takes.
Okay, thank you very much. So essentially, we're looking at improving the business, the level of business service we're offering to our residents, or to our businesses in this case. On that topic, Madame Tremblay and then to Monsieur Conseiller Larin.
Yeah, just to add to what Mr. Leduc just mentioned, if council feels more comfortable, for me, it still accelerate the process if Mr. Leduc would be the delegated authority if council is more comfortable. It's just that it's a lot of time to prepare the report, and like you said, for the amount of time that we spend looking at all the reports, and when it's a done deal, it's almost a done deal. There's so much component that we take into consideration of when we're bringing it to council. It's a lot of time for
a decision that chances are
takes
it's
a
going
couple
to.
of seconds.
Yeah.
So, and just to, again, for Mr. Tarnowski, I have the authority to sign agreements that are subdivision agreement and as well as site plan, so that's why we just kept the same process as every other planning perspective that we have right now under our department.
Merci. Conseiller Larin?
I think EcoDev is one of the departments that we really need to make sure that we do it. It's something that's gonna grow and get bigger and bigger as we grow as a community. There's a lot of things that are happening, so for me, I would be more comfortable if we added a second layer of approval, not necessarily delegation, but approval, or council's delegating approval to both the director of EcoDev and the CAO. I think that cuts down the red tape of it bringing it here. You're gonna be able to see, I'm sure they do it a lot quicker than you're gonna be able to see council. I think it allows council to get more comfortable with the process. rather than just being one person. I'm okay with that. I'll make that recommendation when it comes up in the, so if we take this item out
Yep.
separately, I'll make that recommendation. For me, I'm okay with that part of it. Not to say that I don't believe that Madame Tremblay can make good decisions, but I think that we also need to make sure that there's no set of eyes looking at it and approving it as well.
Councillor Kanowski?
So I just want to reiterate, so my issue is not with the one department only doing it, but my issue is just us being more in the know of what's going on, when it's going on. And so therefore, it's not reflecting on any one person or any one department. So if we just delegate our authority to someone else, I feel I'm not gonna get that in the know at that time. So unless someone can explain to me that I will.
So, Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay, there's the possibility that when a piece of land is sold, that through that process, an email to council just to inform them that that's happened and the business that's coming. Is that the intention, Madame Tremblay?
We could add that to the process if that's council, we could inform council, but there's also, as part of the policy, an obligation from our department to report to council every property that has been sold in the annually report.
Annual.
Yeah,
Be-
so once,
By-
twice,
twice
by,
by-
sorry.
Conseiller Laurent?
I'll put it as part of my amendment to the request that an email be sent out, or communication be sent out to council members when it's been signed off by both parties, by both approval authorities, and that way that we're in the know.
Conseiller Brisson?
Juste mentionner d'où j'avais vu la chose, c'est à l'item 4.4, à l'item 4, et qui parlait du clerk, CEO, GM. Mais il parlait de juste une personne. Parce que ça dit justement, subsequent to this approval, that the authority to enter into agreement of purchase land be delegate to the clerk, CEO, GM. Mais ça ne parle pas d'avoir deux.
Yes.
Madame Tremblay? Point de clarification, I guess.
Mais c'est que là, ça il y a un peu.
Dans le point 4.
4.4,
Item
item 4.
Dans le règlement.
Dans le règlement comme tel ou dans
C'est
le...
la présentation le rapport de.
J'ai juste 4 points ABC, fait que je sais.
C'est pas dans le rapport. Dans tout le rapport, là. Industrial and.
Le rapport du consultant?
Ouais,
Ah, ok. Mais,
le rapport du consultant. Je savais que je l'avais vu à quelque part,
Ok.
c'était ça.
Monsieur Leduc?
C'est ça, c'est le rapport qui a été préparé en novembre 2016 sur comment approcher toute la question de la gestion du parc industriel. Donc, c'est pour ça que ça a inspiré le règlement et la politique comme tel.
Mais c'est pas inclus dans le
C'est pas partie du règlement ou du...
Non, ça ne fait pas partie du règlement comme c'est là.
Any other questions, comments? Conseiller Brisson?
Dans le rapport, je sais qu'il décrivait la description là, de commercial, industriel, non avec pas de service, puis industriel avec service. Avec la description qu'il y avait, je me corrigerai si je suis wrong, mais avec la description que ça disait, c'était plus ou moins comme si le parc commercial, le parc industriel qu'on a avec les entreprises qu'on a comme c'est là, on recommanderait quasiment qu'ils ne soient pas avec servi cette section-là, mais que les nouveaux le soient. Parce que ça dit justement dans le même parc qu'il y avait des sections pas servies, mais là, l'autre problème, c'est que là, tu remets les coûts, que c'est pour séparer tout le monde, mais tu as d'autres places que tu prends l'exemple comme d'où que M. Bourdeau a le garage, ses machines, tu as bien grand de terrain, qu'il n'y a pas nécessairement besoin de tous les services. Tout ça, fait que c'est juste ça.
Madame Tremblay?
ça, encore une fois, c'est dans. J'aurais peut-être pas dû la mettre en annexe, là, parce que ça porte plus à confusion, mais l'annexe, ça, c'est vraiment quand on a, avec M. McSweeney, revu les dispositions au niveau du règlement du zonage. Donc, sa recommandation, c'était vraiment, quand on était pour revoir les usages qui sont permis dans notre règlement de zonage, de créer une zone où il y aurait des usages qui sont permis sans service, puis qu'on regarde les possibilités de quel usage qui serait permis quand notre parc serait desservi. Fait que ça n'a pas rapport avec la politique qu'on présente ici ce soir. Puis c'est quelque chose qui nous a été recommandé quand on revoyait notre règlement de zonage. Fait que c'est l'annexe, dans le fond, la page de l'annexe qui fait vraiment référence, c'est juste aux critères que lui nous suggérait pour revoir notre délégation au niveau des comment on vend les terrains.
Sans que ça fasse affaire, c'est juste que c'est l'information que je trouvais bonne aussi dans ce rapport-là, de clarifier un petit peu que quand on planifie, avec la description qu'il donnait, c'est pour ça que quand je lisais la description, j'ai dit, OK, ben ça veut-tu dire que, mais qu'on fasse la planification de, si on fait les services pour l'eau et les sourds à 417, est-ce qu'il faut exclure ceux qui sont déjà là, parce que ça rentre dans la description un peu de ceux qui, l'exemple de ceux qui disent dans du non-service.
Madame Tremblay?
Je pense que ça, c'est une autre discussion qui rentre pas vraiment là-dedans. Nous, le but de l'exercice, c'était vraiment au niveau du règlement de zonage. Puis de prendre en considération les types d'usages qui seraient permis sur les services versus sur sans service.
Pour avoir la discussion à propos de la criteria qu'on met en
Exactement.
place.
Fait que le mandat du consultant, c'était le règlement de zonage puis de revoir la politique de vente qu'on avait présentement. C'est pour ça que c'est le rapport qui est complet dans les deux.
Okay, parfait. D'autres questions, commandant? Councillor Saucier?
Yep. Well, I'm kind of feeling in agreement with Councillor Janowski on this issue, so it's just because if we get an email, then it's already a done deal, is it not? Like, you know, I'd like to sort of know, I guess, just for knowledge sake and be in the know, and if every 2 weeks isn't an issue, like I know it's all about planning, then I would rather know I have about it ahead of time.
Thank you very much. We'll be discussing and voting on this separately. Again, I think it's just to streamline the process and to the amount of work that staff have to put in for something that essentially, if it meets all the criterias, you know, trying to save some staff time. Madame Tremblay?
And I'm just thinking out loud, if council feels more at ease if we present a report, maybe not to have present a report, like a full report like we do, but just the criteria sheet that could be presented and just say meets, and then it's just an option, just to, again, avoid the amount of work that we put preparing the report and then that it's take 10 seconds and it's over, right?
Right.
So maybe if we approve the criteria and that's what's presented to council to approve the sale, I would be comfortable as well. But
Okay, well, we'll have that discussion at that item as we bring it back. Next item, a pylon sign contract advertising program 417 Industrial Park. The council receives report EcoDev 05-2019 dated April 15, 2019. And the council approves the proposed bylaw to award a contract and to authorize the entry into agreement with Hanson Signs for the installation of the outdoor pylon sign in the amount of $71,894.49. This amount includes the non-refundable municipal HST portion of 1.76%. And the council adopts a proposed amendment to the user fees and charges bylaw number 2019-034 to include advertising fees in Schedule A1. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Janowski, Councillor Brisson.
So I just wanted to understand, what is the process, once this is up, the sign is up, there's obviously a limited amount of spots based on the amount of businesses that are out there, so how does it work in terms of ensuring that there is fair representation? So if, let's say, everybody wants to put a sign up, or put their name in, I know that's not realistic, but what's the process there?
Monsieur le Duc, Madame Tremblay.
so through you, Mr. Mayor, so we've consulted the businesses and the design of the sign was based on the amount of interest that we've received from the existing businesses. So you're right, there may be more businesses than the space that are available, but the contracts would be for 5 years or 3 years, so they would have to be on a waiting list for the next contract to be open after the 3 years if somebody signs for 3 years. So the purpose of why that sign is, we started with a smaller sign, but then we evaluated the space that were available for the businesses, and if we would have add more spaces, then it wouldn't be worth it because the space would be too small and it would not be visible. So we kept the sign as big as possible for the space of the businesses to be advertising as big as possible for them to at least meet the purpose of the visibility from the road. Yeah.
Councillor Tanowski?
So we are growing our industrial park, so that needs gonna increase. So is there long-term, is there space long-term to add more signs of that type? So we're not, it's not a directory, it's a paid, promotion advertising. Because I know some of the businesses there felt that we should have a directory, coming into the industrial park. So this kind of meets that requirement as long as they pay for it. But I would just hate that we can't provide that service to all of them.
Madame Tremblay?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, again, as part of the relocation of the existing sign, we've talked with businesses that, Mega Holding, for example, that has a building on Burton Road. So this is where we're rethinking of relocating that businesses, and we also had a discussion with the property owner beside that would give us space as well to add more sign if we were to get at one point where there's not enough. And we would be looking at more redirectional sign at that location, because to redirect businesses, like client to businesses at that location, because it's closer to the actual businesses.
Right.
So we're looking at more space. Right now, this location it's because there's space and we already have the MTO approval. So for us, it just made sense that we had that sign to advertise our 417 Industrial Park at that location.
Monsieur Leduc?
I guess to Mr. Tanowski's question, there's not enough room for everybody to put an ad there, that's for sure. So I guess an answer to your proposal would be that, especially when we start, we have, let's say, 10 slots, and we invite those businesses in the park to maybe join our mailing list, and those interested are notified. There's a period of putting in your interest, and there's more than 10, we could probably have a draw there, and then you would know who's on the sign. And it could be the same for whenever we renew. If there's one or two that free up and don't want to renew, then maybe an email can be sent to all those in the members of the park to say who's interested. Again, having a time period, and if there's more than those slots available, then we draw it. Unless council wants to have more specific, where it's a bigger company, it's a bigger name tag to the park, we could add criteria as much as council wants. So, I mean, if that's the issue, at this point we don't think there'll be people run into this sign, but maybe we'll be surprised and there will be more people that are interested.
Councillor Tanowski?
So, Mr. Leduc, I feel quite comfortable, based on what Madame Tremblay told me, that we can expand eventually with more signage. So that way it allows everyone the opportunity at some point. So I would assume if I was a business there and I really want one, and I win the lottery or whatever the process is, really, it doesn't matter, as long as there's a fair and equitable process in getting my name up there as a business. I'll probably keep that, until I retire or sell my business, because it's really, pertaining to where the business is located and the traffic that goes through. I guess maybe not all businesses will want that, but as long as down the road there is an opportunity to increase signage, add more these types of signs, then I think then we're on the right track. So that's great for me. Thank you.
One option might be as well is that we don't, in the contract, it's not an automatic given that somebody, after their contract ends, they don't necessarily have first right of refusal. If we have, businesses that are waiting for an opportunity to come up, then we might have to rotate with those businesses and say, okay, well, you had an opportunity for a 3-year period, you put your sign up, now it's somebody else's turn. But again, depending on the demand, we might find that we put more signage up throughout the park. So, and closer to, you might have the businesses that are closer at 417, and as you go into the park, deeper into the park, there's another sign for the businesses that are located elsewhere, so. Conseiller Lorette.
Thank you. So, just for my sake, so this was a tender that we put out and said, this is what we want. Tell me how much it'll cost to build this. So it wasn't necessarily a proposal request where they can design whatever they want. So does it not concern us that there's a 30% difference between the highest price and the lowest price? Because it concerns me when we put it out. Someone's not seeing something somewhere, and I don't know if it's the lowest guy or the highest guy.
Well, sometimes it's not necessarily not seeing something. Sometimes it's, I have too much business this year. I really don't want this contract. I'll bid higher, and then it's worth my while. But occasionally, it's based on the amount of work the company has as well.
I can understand on a construction contract and whatnot, because there's a lot of construction projects that people bid on, and a sign? 30% difference on signs? Like
Not that
that's-
problem?
The main reason why this one, so there was in the bid, there was information that, let's say you had to give the price for landscaping, you had to give the price for the sign, and some of the bidders didn't include the electrical. Some of the bidders didn't include the soil test. So it was specific on the plan, as you said, there was a plan showing exactly the engineering. We had the stamp from the engineering, the design of the building, the sign, everything was done. But some of the bidder decided not to bid for electrical, when there was a line of electrical, and some of them did not add an amount. So they were not completed bid. And that's why you see the difference in the amount, and some of those that did not include the electrical were the highest. So for example, the 104 did not include the soil test, but they're at 104. So there was information that were missing from some of the information that were key component of why there's such a difference in price.
So the question now becomes is,
So the lowest bid included everything.
met all the components,
Yeah.
he just came in at a lower bid than the
Yeah.
others.
So then, we shouldn't expect a single penny over budget on this project,
No.
is what we're saying. Because I can tell you, I've seen too many projects that go over budget because they read something differently than what was in the tender, and all of a sudden it's a change request on their side, and they say to us, well, that's not how I interpreted X, therefore now that's another $10,000. That's where my concern becomes,
So
right?
just to reassure council, because there was such a different amount of money involved in the different bids, I've contacted each of them, asking them if all the requirements were as expected, and I have an email confirming from that company saying that it included everything as soil test, engineer, electrical and everything, and I have that email that confirms that the lowest bid includes all the requirements.
Monsieur Leduc?
Je m'amende conseil to Mr. Lorrain, you made the reference to the word budget. The budget here is $110,000. I think you were referencing the bid price. Because if we're within budget, it's up to 110, and I'll be all okay, so.
You're right, I misspoke, I meant the bid price. Whatever we award the contract at, to me then becomes the budget, because that's what you're allocating to it. But you are correct, 110 is not what I wanna spend, if I'm getting it for 70, I don't wanna spend more than the 70.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well is that if I was somebody who's bidding on a project and I know that the municipality's budget is $110,000, then I see myself as having a little bit of profit margin, saying, well, they're willing to go to 110, so I'm willing to go, I'll throw in an extra amount that I'm willing to and hopefully I get it. Monsieur Leduc?
Mr. Mayor, in this case, and Tommy just tells me that since now we were planning to relocate it, the existing sign, so there are additional costs that we'll take from the available budget that's left to remove it. So, because initially we're planning just to remove it completely,
Right.
and now since we can recycle it and reuse it, and we have available money from the budget, then we'll have a secondary sign installed for that.
Perfect. D'autres questions, commentaires? Non, pas de choses d'autres à ajouter? Move on to the next item. Item J, Kennel Bylaw Report PIC 1129. The council receives report PIC 2019, dated April 15, 2019, and approves as recommended in this report, 1, the proposed bylaw to license, regulate, and govern kennels located in Township of Russell, and 2, the proposed bylaw to amend Schedule A3 of the fees and charges bylaw 2019-034. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Sosi, then Conseiller Brisson.
Yeah, I was looking at the report, it looks good. So this will affect existing kennels as well, they're already in operation.
Madame Bordeaux?
Yes, it affects all kennels. They're presently licensed.
Right.
It's just, there's a bit more information.
But I'm happy to see that we're discouraging puppy mills, so that was good. Yes, thank you.
Conseiller Brisson?
On mentionnait que comme c'est là, les chenilles qui sont déjà en opération, combien y avait-tu besoin de permis comme c'est là?
Oui, il y avait besoin d'un permis.
Il était de combien?
Si tu regardes la cédule A3, le prix n'a pas changé. Il est
C'est
pareil.
c'est encore assez.
Oui.
Ok. Mon autre question que j'avais, c'est que dans le rapport, il parle de 4 types de chenilles. Tu as la pension, tu as l'élevage, ça c'est facile à comprendre, là, mais entre la pension, le chenil récréatif, puis une garderie canine, puis je vois, comme c'est juste voir c'est quoi la différence entre ces trois-là.
Madame Bourdon?
Oui. Si vous regardez dans le règlement, dans la partie de définition, au début du règlement, tu as un boarding kennel qui quelqu'un qui garde des chiens pour une semaine, 2 semaines dans leur chenille. Après ça, tu as un breeding kennel qui fait l'élevage. Après ça, tu as ton récréationnel qui est quelqu'un comme qui a des chiens à traîneau. Il appartient ces chiens, mais il y en a un montant plus grand que le règlement des chiens
Que le 3, là.
permet. Puis après ça, tu as ton daycare kennel. Ce qu'on a remarqué, c'est que les gens commencent à garder des chiens à la maison, puis pour des frais, mais c'est juste durant la journée. Puis on veut essayer de contrôler les gens qui font ça, spécialement dans le secteur urbain. Tu veux pas que quelqu'un commence à garder des chiens puis qu'il y en ait 10 ou 15 dans sa cour en arrière toute la journée, puis c'est ton voisin, là, ça marchera pas. Là. C'est pour ça qu'on fait cette catégorie-là qui est la plus nouvelle, si tu veux.
Fait que la garderie, puis la pension, c'est pratiquement la même chose. C'est juste en général, l'autre, c'est juste la journée, mais
C'est ça, il y en a qui gardent des chiens dans les maisons pour la journée. Il y en a qui en gardent un, mais il y en a qui en gardent 5, 6.
mais ça, comment tu peux réglementer? C'est dur à réglementer aussi.
Ben, c'est habituellement, on va avoir des plaintes parce que quelqu'un, s'il reste dans le village, puis il y a des chiens.
Il a pu finir dans sa cour.
Mais dans ceux-là, je crois que j'avais lu que, donc, n'importe lequel de ceux-là, tu n'as pas le droit d'être en dedans des limites du village.
Non. Non.
Ça fait que quelqu'un ne pourra pas garder. Mais il n'y a aucun, comme même 1 ou 2 chiens non plus, ça ne tombe pas dedans. Parce que je sais que dans le village, c'est 2 chiens maximum, comme c'est là.
C'est ça.
Mais comme justement, que s'il veut en garder une couple, ça, il n'est pas parmi du tout. Avec cette chose-là, ou s'il y a une limite qu'on pourra mettre en dedans du village, ou pour la section seulement garder durant le jour.
Ben, s'il en garde juste 2, j'imagine qu'il pourrait le garder dans le village.
Non, je ne sais pas si c'est tant qu'à faire la réglementation, c'est pour ça que je demandais. Donc,
Ben, je pense que on a eu des discussions avec the current kennel owners
Oui.
sur le règlement. Puis we'll see where it goes. As on met la réglementation, s'il y a des plaintes puis il y a des ajustements à faire, ben ça c'est quelque chose que Mme Bordeaux, son équipe peut venir au conseil s'il pense qu'il y a une justification pour changer quelque chose. Councillor Saucier?
But we did say though that people were grandfathered in, like if they had more than 2 dogs.
They're not in the sense that
Like you said, if one dies, then they don't replace it.
That's
but,
it.
Yeah.
unless if we have a lot of complaints, the issue is that we've always had that number of dogs in the bylaw. It wasn't enforced,
Mm-hmm.
and right now we're starting to see that there's a lot of people in the urban area where they have more than 2 dogs. So we're trying to tolerate as much as possible, especially the people who have had them for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're not allowing people to get new dogs.
Right. That was my understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
Conseiller Brisson?
quand que je regarde dans la charte pour les prix, je vois que pour le chenil, qui est l'élevage, la pension, la garderie, mais il n'y a pas de choses récréatives. Est-ce que c'est juste une chose d'un oubli dedans? devrait être dedans parce qu'il y a rien que 3
Il est là, le numéro 7.
Ah, ok, c'est un qui est pas rouge.
C'est parce qu'il n'a pas changé du tout.
Ah, il y en avait déjà un.
Il n'a pas changé de nom, il n'a pas changé de nom, il n'a pas rien changé.
Ok, parce que ça existait déjà, une chose comme ça.
C'est ça.
Mais ça n'existait pas que vous disiez un pour un canal, un gros canal aussi?
Oui, mais on a changé de nom. C'est
Ah.
pour ça que je l'ai mis en jaune.
Ok.
On n'a pas changé de prix, on a juste changé de nom.
Ok.
D'autres questions? Quelque chose d'autre à ajouter, madame? Non?
Non.
Move on to the next item, item K, noise bylaw amendment, report PIC 12/2019 for Canada Day music and fireworks held on July 1st, 2019 between 11:30 a.m. and 11 p.m. And a pre-Canada Day bash music to be held on June 30th, 2019 in Russell between 7:30 p.m. and 12 a.m. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Larrain?
Yeah, going through the requests, the times are all over the map. Like in one request, it talks about, sometimes in the report, it talks about different times. Can we just get confirmation about what's going on both of these days? Because I'm looking at a request from Catherine Hong, which I believe is the noise request amendment request 1. And it says June 30th, pre-Canada Day bash, 7 p.m. until midnight at the fairgrounds with bands playing and bar open until midnight. And then on July 1st, it talks about there will be bands playing until 10 with the bar open until midnight and fireworks until 11:30 p.m. It's a little late for fireworks for the kids. But then when you look at noise request number 2 from Elizabeth Ferguson, it only talks about the June 30th date, but it says live entertainment outdoors noon till 11 p.m. So,
Yes, I did call them, I did speak with and the last email we got was the one, and the hours reflecting on the report are the right hours, because I noticed that they were all over the map with the hours.
okay,
So that's why, like, if you look in the report,
So the recommendation itself is that council receives report PIC 12/2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves as recommended in this report the noise bylaw exemption to allow the Russell Agricultural Society to hold pre-Canada Day Bash, a music event on June 30th, 2019, between the hours of 7:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., and music at the fairgrounds and fireworks in the soccer field of the Russell High School during Canada Day activities between 12 p.m. noon and 11 p.m. on July 1st.
so
Those are the right hours as
Yes.
reflected in the report.
so there will be no bash, no concert, no nothing, no alcohol before 7:30 p.m. on the 30th?
Well, this is the noise
Exemption.
exemption.
Okay.
So, but if you look at the last, not the one with the Russell Fair logo on it, the other email, that's the information, that's the latest information I got.
Madame Guitard, quelque chose à ajouter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I received an email today from the Lions Club because they are hosting the Canada Day this year, not Ag Society. So I'm not sure why Mrs. Bordeaux got the noise bylaw exemption request, because it's the Lions this year. So I think maybe we will have to look into the events that will be going on, because I think there might be some confusion here.
Okay.
Yeah, is this something that we can defer, cause?
Yeah, let's defer this to I mean, there's no rush. I mean, we're still in April, we're talking about Canada Day weekend here.
I'm not sure who that person is, I don't know that person who sent me that email. so
Well,
I
the
don't-
two, Catherine, well, it looks as though they're both from the Ag Society.
Oh, no, I don't.
So we might be fine. Normally, they rotate back year after year, but in this case, we're talking about a new event on June 30th. So maybe they've got their lines of communication crossed as to who's running what this year.
And I was approached recently too by someone regarding that, and I was told the Ag Society were running Canada Day this year, cause as a former Lion member, I know that there's always, they take the lead, one group will take the lead, and one year, and then the next year, the other group takes the lead. They all work together for the whole thing, it's always part of the same people, but one just takes the lead with the liquor permit and everything else. One thing that if we can have confirmation of, and maybe this will go through Chief Armstrong, is to get clarification on when will the fireworks be held on July 1st, because I'm thinking fireworks until 11:30 p.m. is a little crazy.
Okay.
He has an email also.
Okay. From the Lions Club. So let's pull this item out, and then we'll be able to make an amendment to defer to a later date, and the report can come back with clarification from everybody in both groups and all our departments, make sure we're all on the same page. Okay. Move on to the next item. Item L. New snowplow purchase report ISPW 03-2019. The council receives report ISPW 03-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and accepts the bid received from ELP Inc. for a 2020 Western Star tandem diesel snowplow truck in the amount of $279,007.14 plus $4,910.53 HST for a total of $285,917.67. Municipal portion of HST included. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Laurent.
You know why we only got one bid?
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Bourgon?
Through Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, we don't have an explanation why we only received one submission. That tender was available for every other contractor. They received notice. We even joined, it was a joint tender with UCPR as well as with the other municipalities. So that tender regrouped, I think we were 5 or 6 snowplows that they had the opportunity to bid on.
So this company put the only bid on all of the snowplows.
The way their tender was made, like basically you could take the decision to only bid on one vehicle, but this company actually put a bid on every one of them. But that's the only one that we received for our vehicle.
Do we know offhand if, as part of that group tender, is there other municipalities that got a single bid from other companies?
I didn't ask the other municipality. As for us, this specific company, we bought their last 4 plows from them.
And we're in the same range?
Yeah. We saw the increase over the years. We were expecting again an increase this year with the steel going up. So it's the type of price that we were expecting.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Conseiller Laurent?
I have more comments, but they're probably gonna get me in trouble, so I'm gonna save them and I'll have a discussion with you afterwards on it to share my concerns.
Move on to the next item. Item N, funding application ICIP report ISPW 05-2019. The council receives report ISPW 05-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and 1, authorize the administration to submit an application for the rehabilitation of the bridge on Route 400 under the ICIP, and 2, gives direction to proceed with the rehabilitation of the small weight bridge using the financial model as presented. Questions, comments, members of council? See none. Anything to add from the administration? Monsieur Bourgon?
I was gonna add that basically that's a report, that's an update from my quick verbal report on March 18. So by looking at all the different criteria to apply for the next round of funding, we believe that that's the bridge that we have the most
Best chances of succeeding.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. No other questions? Question? Conseiller
You know,
Laurent?
just before you move on, I forgot to ask, can we remove L from the consent items?
Yep.
Which is the snowplow purchase. Thank you, sorry.
No problem. Move on to item N, Community Grants Report PR 09-2019. The council receives PR 09-2019 dated April 15, 2019, and approves the following departments' recommendations for community grant donations in 2019 to the following groups. 1, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $1,156 to the Emblem Community and Business Watch to cover the cost of the ANTHEM Community Center for their Ladies' Night on April 27th, 2019. 2, to approve an in-kind grant in the amount of $465 to the St. Mary's Anglican Church Clothing Closet to cover the cost of the Frank Kennard Hall for their fashion show on April 28th, 2019. According to the Community Grants and Contribution Guidelines, funding, the above requests meet our requirements for funding. Questions, comments, members of council? No? Anything to add from the administration? And then Vital?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Yes, the second approval for the St. Mary's Anglican Church canceled their event, so therefore we'll be retrieving that and we'll be putting back the money in the budget. They said maybe they will postpone it later this year.
Okay, perfect. And if they decide to go ahead again, well, then the lease approval will be given, and if they decide to change their mind in the next week, then that option is still there.
So if I understand clearly, I won't have to bring it back to council?
Does council wish to approve this, and if they come back at a later point in time, it's considered approved? Yeah, okay, so, Mr. Leduc?
That means that we're putting aside that 465 in case they do,
Yeah.
so.
Let's, just to be clear, I'm saying if they come back and there's still funding available, then it's approved. If there's no longer any funding available, then it comes back to council, and we'll have that conversation at that point in time. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Item O, Russell Municipal Facilities Rental Allocation Policy Report PR 10-2019. The council receives report PR 10-2019 dated April 15, 2019 and approves. 1, the proposed bylaw to adopt the revised Russell Municipal Facilities Rental Allocation Policy, and 2, repeals the previous bylaw 2018-115. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Associate.
I can't find exactly where it was now, but for the rental of this hall, like for here, and then I didn't see the.
That's the next.
Oh, that's the next report, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, okay.
For this report, Conseiller Lorrain.
Just want to clarify something in the history on the second page, I guess, of the third page of the report. It states, where is it? Right here. In report PR 23-2018 presented in September, the administration made other changes and council approved bylaw 2018-2011, which repealed bylaw 2017-89. That's incorrect.
2018-115.
No, sorry, repealed bylaw 2017-089,
Okay.
right? That's not what was in the report at the time, and that's not what would happen. We repealed 059. That's what was in the report. That's how I caught this. So just to correct this, if you go back to the report, I believe of September the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, when this was done, if you look at that report, it actually said repeal 2017-059, and it should have said repeal 2017-089, which was the existing bylaw, because 059 had been repealed by 089. So I just wanted to correct this, because this is incorrect still, this report,
Okay.
the wording there.
No.
Monsieur Leduc?
I think the
It was
wording
meant
here,
to do this, but it didn't do this.
I think we have to go to the words that are here. Like you say, Mr. Laurent, we were to amend bylaw 2017-89, but we did make reference to 2017-59. That's the one we used to change things back into 18-115. So that, the report thing is okay here, but.
No, but if you look at the report from September, if you pull up that report, you will see that in the report it says, and repeal 2017-059.
That's a mistake.
Well, that's,
In
I
that
know it's a
report.
mistake, that's why we're here today. But you're saying here that we repealed 089 in that report, and we didn't. We repealed 059. I'm just making a comment that this right here on the screen is incorrect. We meant to repeal 8-9, but we didn't. We repealed 059 in the report.
So, Monsieur Leduc, this is not as part of the recommendation, this is in the history part of the,
I think it's even more complex than that, in the sense that the original report was making reference to 1759. Even from the clerk's perspective, she did make a manual change to 2017-59 to 2017-89 by hand, after we discussed that. But the original report made reference to 2017-59, which was the one we used in error.
Right.
To make those changes, but we all the time in that report, we're referencing 59, which was the one we used in error, and that's what the report here says. We use 2017-59, was used to make those changes instead of bylaw 2789. We're not talking about what was repealed, we're saying what was used to make those
You
changes.
are.
it's because it says which repealed bylaw 2017.
You said the administration made other changes and council approved bylaw 2018-115, which repealed bylaw 2017-89. It did not. The resolution was to repeal 059.
Monsieur Leduc?
Can we ask the clerk what's on record?
Yeah. Well, I think we're due for a break, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break, and the clerk can verify what was on that report at that point in time.
Just go to the minutes from September, it's there. That's how I caught it,
It's different, I can tell you.
right? The report is how I caught it.
Conseiller Laurent?
So I spoke with Monsieur Leduc and we clarified that the final resolution does state 089, however, it was originally approved at 059. So I guess at this point, it's neither here nor there. The fact is this bylaw needed to be redone because it was referencing the wrong initial bylaw, which was reference 059 instead of 089. So I'm happy that the changes are reflected. And that's what.
Okay, perfect. Anything to ajouter? No? We'll move on to the next item. Item P, Municipal Facilities Rental Allocation Policy Report CL 09-2019. The council receives report CL 09-2019 dated April 15th, 2019, and approves 1, the proposed bylaw to amend section B5 exemptions of the Russell Municipal Facilities Rental Allocation Policy to add a section with respect to the Gaston R. Padnote Hall. And 2, the proposed bylaw to amend Schedule A1 administrative fees of the user fees and charges bylaw 2019-034 to add the fee for the exceptional rental of the Gaston R. Padnote Hall. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Associate and Councilor Janoski.
Okay, so I guess, I was just wondering, is all the groups listed that rent this hall, or, because like I'm thinking of the library book sale that's always held here. Is that that's given to them free, right?
Monsieur Leduc?
Oh, sorry.
Madam Conseil, well, I think the library board, or the library is part of this corporation.
Yeah,
And I think we are missing sometimes is to remind people that's what it is. So therefore, there's no fees to be charged to the library.
okay,
It's an internal matter.
right, merci.
Councilor Janoski, something to add? No? Conseiller Brisson?
Moi, c'était juste savoir, comme là, ils disent que c'est pour mettre une fille à la salle, la location de la salle ici, mais savoir dans le passé, est-ce qu'on la loue, est-ce qu'on la veut la louer, ou si c'est tout le temps dans les exemptions qu'on le faisait.
Monsieur Leduc?
C'est quoi le...
Madame du Conseil, en bout de ligne, on ne veut pas la louer. Dans le passé, on ne voulait pas la louer. On a l'équipement très dispendieux, de son, tout le reste. On loue à l'occasion, ça revient débranché, désaligné, il y a des problématiques informatiques. Donc, on veut limiter la location au minimum. Mais on se demande à l'occasion par OPP, par les comtés ou autres agences comme ça, de s'en servir. Fait qu'on est prêt à faire ces choses-là. Mais de là à dire au public, oui, maintenant, vous louez comme vous voulez, on ne veut pas aller là. On veut protéger la salle ici pour qu'elle reste ce qu'elle est, puis avec tout l'équipement informatique qu'on a, on veut limiter le dérangement.
Mais pourquoi avoir mis une chose pour un frais au lieu de juste dire, OK, on a ceux-là en exemption pareil, on donne juste à eux autres, pourquoi amener une autre politique pour de frais si on ne veut pas la louer, justement. Puis je comprends très bien de ne pas la louer, 100%.
Je pense que c'est plus si on la loue à ce groupe-là, au moins on veut faire quelque chose avec.
Ben, c'est parce que on n'a pas toujours réussi à pas la louer quand je voulais pas la louer. Il y a de la pression des fois qui se met sur nous autres pour accepter l'occasion. Si on est pour l'avoir puis la louer, ben on va au moins un minimum charger les frais de l'entretien puis de la préparation de la salle puis toutes choses comme ça. Donc, au minimum, les cas exceptionnels vont y charger quelque chose pour au moins défrayer les frais que ça coûte pour nettoyer puis installer tout le reste. Puis l'électricité, tout ce qu'il y a.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Councillor Karnowski?
Au niveau de mettre un frais, puis de publier un frais pour, est-ce que ça va amener plus de demandes pour le louer, puis plus de problématiques au niveau de dire non à chaque fois?
Monsieur Leduc?
Je pense pas. On voulait seulement adresser les points exceptionnels. Je pense pas. Mais l'inverse, c'est pas mieux. On va pas de politique, puis j'ai pas de moyen de dire non officiellement aux gens. Donc, j'aime mieux avoir une situation où je peux dire oui ou non. Puis si je dis oui, ben il y a un fait anticipé à ce moment-là. Si c'était pas un dégât exclu.
D'autres questions, commentaires? Move on to the next item. Item Q we've dealt with. Item 12, reports from an investigator in the ombudsman, we have none. Item 13, notice motion, we have none. Item 14, question period on meeting the date. If anyone has any questions, I'll please invite them to come to the lectern and state your name and the address and ask your question.
Harry Baker, Fourth Road. What happened between last year and this year that you're going to pave the rest of Fourth Road?
We're, Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Bourgon, that was part of our budget discussions.
Exactly, Mr. Mayor. When we at budget discussion, we've learned that we were going to receive a national amount from the counties. Council proposed to pave McDonald and Forest Road, the gravel portion of Forest Road.
With paving or force or
surface treatment.
Surface treatment.
So it's going to be bituminous surface treatment. And all of McDonald or just from Church Street to the river?
Monsieur Bourgon?
It's to pave from Route 400 to Church Street.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My question concerns item 11I, that's with respect to the sign at the 417 Industrial Park. I'm just curious, what does it do to a business's image if their name is not on the sign? And a related question, what does it do to a business's image if it's on the sign and yet sometime later they don't win the lottery thing and it's off the sign?
I don't think that's something I can answer. It's up to each individual business to decide the importance of the sign or whether they want it there or not. Councillor Tarnowski?
I would think that there's some value in either one of those, but we were discussing this earlier on that some businesses that do B2B, like business to business, may not want the value of the traffic advertising being seen there, and so they may not want to put their name up there. So I think I'm in agreement with Madame Tremblay that the demand may not be there to fill up those signs. And what made me comfortable is the idea that long term that we'll add more space or more signage so that everyone has the opportunity to put the signs up. Because I would agree with you that I think having my sign up there and then my contract's up and all of a sudden have to reapply for a lottery and maybe I don't get in. And we used the lottery, Mr. Lezuc talked about a lottery, but I think whatever process we have, as long as it's a fair and equitable process, is fine. But I agree with you that, once my sign is up there, I'd hate to lose it 3 years down the road. And I don't think that would be ideal. But it does give us a window in terms of improving that and having more signs available.
I think it's similar to sponsorships when it comes into our arenas or domes. Our signs, some businesses decide to sponsor for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And as a sign, being in business, I had the opportunity that the sign at one point in time, it just becomes background noise. And you don't necessarily visually see it, but you will notice if there's a change. So there's advantages for and against in both scenarios.
Okay.
Thank you. Move on to item 15, resolutions. Motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item number 11, reports from departments and council committees, except Madame,
Mr. Mayor, I have noted 11A,
oui,
11H,
oui,
11K. Nobody mentioned it, but I guess it will be. It was kind of discussed.
okay. Oui,
And then K,
J,
like Caleb,
okay, so A, Ash,
K,
K,
L,
oui,
and Q.
and Q. Ben, Q, on l'a déjà voté,
Well, we
except
still need-
for, we'll take it out, but we don't have to
That's
read
it,
it.
we don't come back.
Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder to take all these items out. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Chinoski. All those in favor of removing these 5 items? All those opposed?
That's the main one first.
Huh?
That's the main one. Just removing the main one.
Wait, okay, move the main one, Conseiller Lorrain, Councillor Chinoski. Now the amendment to remove these 5. Conseiller Lorrain, Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor of taking these 5 out? Okay, approved. So now we'll approve the main motion as amended without all these items. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. So now we will go on with item A. Item A is the Heritage Conservation District Study. I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Councillor Chinoski. Questions, comments? Councillor Larrey? Registered vote? Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Chinoski?
So I just want to state for the record that I like the idea. I'm for the process and everything else, but the change in price, and like with a quick turnaround, the change in price from this morning, finding that out, I have concerns that I'm not sure that I can make a decision based on that.
Madame Tremblay?
I just want to clarify that it's not a change in price. So what we have right now in the report is a 20,000, which is a fact. It's in the 2019 budget. The extra, it's what's going to cost for the entire project. Like it's the 80,000. So it's not. It's just it was not planned accordingly as part of the budget. It's planned 20 and it's actually 80.
So we're going to
So
do
it's-
the work of 20 at this point in time, knowing that there is
Overall.
another 60 involved if we want to continue with the process next year.
Yeah, and it seems like it's a lot, but it's the price for every other project, and I was just speaking with Jonathan, and for example, the EA for the industrial park was 120. That's the price of a study that usually we get done, and usually that we see them as part of a budget session, and now I'm just confirming that council wants to move forward. If not, there's no need of spending that 20 that's in the budget of 2019.
Okay. Conseiller Lorrain, Conseiller Brisson?
So in a sense, we're committing to the 80
Yeah, that's it.
by approving the 20.
Yeah.
I think that's where Councilor Ternoski's concern is, where in the budget it was 20,
For the project.
where the report came in, it was 20. Now it's 80 that we're committing to, even though we're only gonna use 20 out of this budget.
Yeah.
We're also committing 60 for next year if we approve the 20. And are we comfortable with approving 80 tonight? Because that's what we're doing. Even though we're only giving approval for 20, we're in fact approving 80.
Just point of clarification. We're approving the work of $20,000 in this item. Council at budget time in 2020 will determine if we add 60 to finish the work, but we still have the option not to continue at that point in time.
But staff is recommending to us tonight that don't do the 20 if you're not gonna do the 60.
That's correct.
So
But
in
there is-
essence, we have to decide if we're
There is
doing 100.
there is still
180 or
another
not.
level to decide whether we want to continue at one point or not.
No.
Well, it would be.
Right.
Monsieur Leduc?
Monsieur le membre du conseil, I think if you need other information prior to engaging into this district discussion, it'd be time to say it now, because I think once we do spend that $80,000, it's kind of a rubber stamping of proceeding with the district. So if council has any concern, or if there's a majority who think that we will not be going forward with the district down the line, I think save everybody $80,000 on time and say it now so that, you know, this issue will go away and on its own and we will not pursue it. So I think for us, it's more than just 80,000. It's an engagement to proceed and then going on to the next step with it. Even though I know you can still change your mind, but if you already know you're gonna be changing your mind down the road,
Right.
let's save $80,000 and do it now.
Conseiller Laurent?
I'll make two comments. One, I'll state my position on it. I haven't been in favor of the district the entire time, so I'm not changing my position on it. So the 20,000, 80,000 really to me has no bearing on my decision. However, if that is the case, then why wouldn't that have come as the recommendation? Basically, you're approving the district with this report. Because that's ultimately what you just said is what you want. And I know, Madam Tommy, you're shaking your head, but what Monsieur Le Duc just said was, if you're gonna commit the 80, you're essentially, at that point, wanna commit to the district. So.
We still need clarification as to what that district would entail, right?
I'm just going by what was just said,
Yeah,
right?
Mr. Leduc?
I think that's my position, as far as the CEO, to say, if you know right off the bat, without any more debates, that you don't want to be voting for it now, if you have a majority of council that don't want to hear about it now, it would be the time to say it now. If you're willing to spend another $80,000 to go down the road and still look at the criteria and look at those things and still decide no, but at least we would have said it tonight. That's where we're sitting now.
Okay.
So.
I'm saying it tonight. I don't care for the district.
Okay. Conseiller Brisson, Councillor Associate, then Councillor Donosky.
Bon, puis je pense pour clarifier justement, le 20 000, c'est l'étude qui est faite comme c'est là, que le rapport qu'on vient de voir, ça ne fait pas partie du 20 000 dedans. Ça a déjà été payé. Mais l'autre, si on décide d'aller plus loin, c'est un projet de 80 000. Puis le projet, c'est pour donner des critères de qu'est-ce qui va être dedans, si justement dire, OK, qu'est-ce qui peut être remplacé, quel matériel, puis tout ça.
C'est ça, c'est les critères pour aider à protéger l'envergure de le village comme tel.
Mais c'est ça, c'est 80 000.
Oui. Madame Tremblay?
I'm thinking of how I'm gonna say it, and I know it seems like it's a lot of money, but I think council's decision should reflect on not what's the amount, but what's the intent of what we're trying to achieve. And I think the base work was done, and that was our mandate, is to propose you what could look like, what would the district look like, what it's gonna entail, and now we're asking you to proceed. And I think the financial component comes as part of the discussion, but it shouldn't dictate if we're moving forward or not.
Right, because I think at the end of the day, the decision we make in regards to this file will have a serious impact on what the village of Russell will look like in the future. Whether it'll have a similar look as it is today, or it'll be wide open and we could lose everything that we have today. Which a lot of people consider that as being what's so attractive about the village of Russell. Councillor Associate?
Yeah, and I think we also have to consider what we've already spent. So if we just throw it away today, we're talking about losing money. You've just lost everything you've done up to now. And I know the majority of the residents, I think, are in favor of it because they want to preserve it and they don't want to lose the history of the village. They don't want to lose the buildings that are there. And I'll use the example of the registry office. When these things are in place, you have some say in what kind of signage goes on the front of a heritage building. And some of these homes are very, very old. And I think, I've mentioned before, where I grew up, we lost everything that was old. And then they painted a mural on the side of the building, showing you what it used to look like, how pretty it used to be. So I don't want to go there. I've been in favor of this from day one. And so I'm going to support it.
Councillor Kanowski?
So I just want to clarify my position in the sense that I agree that 80,000 in the scheme of everything is not a lot. So my issue is not with the $80,000, it's more with the fact that, I like percentages, but that's a 400% increase from where it was this morning. And so what stops us, 2 weeks down the road, to come up with another 80,000 because, we didn't think of this. So at this stage, like, I'm in favor of this process, and I'm in favor of doing it, but I have concerns that, have we really now looked at everything and there is no other surprises next week or the week after? I don't feel confident at this stage, based on the fact that we just figured this out this morning, that it's 400% more than it was. And that's what makes me a little weary of voting in favor of it right now, although I like the idea and I'm not concerned as much about the 80,000 per se.
Monsieur Leduc, Madame Bordeaux, Monsieur Tremblay.
Basically, the only thing I could tell you to reassure you is that the email that I received from the consultant is that the information about the price was based on a lot of heritage district plan that they've conducted. And of course, there's more a detailed task plan that will come forward for us to evaluate as part of the cost. But basically what he sent me this morning is that it's 40,000 plus the 20 and the 20 that we had for all the aspect of public consultation meeting. And so it's subtotal 80,000, that would include the disbursement and everything else like that. So this is an email that I've got from the consultant. And like I mentioned, I have a revised report with a revised recommendation asking to proceed with the consultant, so not go under the purchasing policy and go back to bids, because we want to keep the same consultant that did the work prior to what has been just completed to date. So that's the reassurance that I have right now, and I understand your understanding, but if you want, I could bring another report to council, next council meeting with a detailed plan and a detailed amount, if council would feel more comfortable. This is not something that is super urgent, but if I have a sense that we want to keep going and council would feel more comfortable with a detailed plan, with a detailed cost, I have no issue to bring a report back to council next council meeting.
Perfect. Merci beaucoup. Conseiller Brisson et le councilleur Lorrain.
C'était juste savoir, vraiment entre le 20 000 et 80 000, là, mais quand le 20 000 avait été mis sur le budget, est-ce que c'était la compagnie qui t'avait donné ce chiffre-là, ou si c'était juste un chiffre que tu as dit, parce que l'autre partie d'études était 20 000, c'est vraiment, pour dire que tu n'as pas fait tes devoirs,
J'ai pas fait mes devoirs.
mais c'est un peu ça que, quand ça a été pour le budget, c'est que 20 000, c'était pas le raisonnable pour l'étude qui restait à faire.
Madame Tremblay.
C'est exactement. Le 2018, c'était 20 000. J'ai juste planifié un autre 20 000 pour 2019. J'ai pas demandé la question. Sachant pas où on s'en allait avec ça, j'ai pas...
C'est ça, c'est pas qu'il t'a dit, ah, c'est à 20 000 pour continuer, puis là, tout d'un coup, rendu à matin, qu'ils disent, ah non, c'est plus 20 000, c'est 80 000. C'est juste que c'est plus d'ouvrage, qu'est-ce qui reste.
Qu'est-ce qui a été fait.
Qu'est-ce qui a été fait.
C'est ça, exactement.
Conseiller Lorrain.
I'm gonna, even though I think I've stated my position on this item, I'm gonna ask that we defer this item to the next meeting so that staff has the ability to bring us back another report that's updated with the proper numbers and maybe additional information to justify the $80,000, and maybe that makes some members of council more comfortable with the process. So I'm gonna request that we defer this item.
So, amendment to defer, moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Saucier. All those in favor of defer? All those opposed? Carried, so we defer to the next meeting. Sorry? It will be discussed at the next meeting. We've deferred the item. So when it comes back, we'll have more discussion at that point in time.
C'est différent, ça se pourrait que tu peux modifier jusqu'à ce qu'on
Next item is item H, Industrial Land Sale Policy Report EcoDev 04-2019. Need a mover and a seconder, put it on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions, comments? Conseiller Lorrain.
As stated during the discussion, I'll request an amendment to add the two things. One, to add the CEO as a delegated approver
In conjunction
with the Director of EcoDev. And add that any approvals, once they are approved, a communication be sent to all members of council to advise that a sale of property has been approved.
Okay, so we have the amendment proposed by Conseil Lorraine. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Conseil Brisson. Questions, comments on the amendment? Ask the question.
So if we can perhaps, I completely agree with the first part, with the second signature. And for the email, just to give us an email, but with some time in case something drastic is not right. So an email before the deal is done. We're just confirming that within 24 or 48 hours.
We could not do that because then it would be a decision of council being made in the background, giving authority to the administration to say, it's okay, you go ahead and sign this.
Okay, disregard my comment.
So we have the amendment to A, to have both, to be a co-signature between the department head and the CAO, and then B, to inform council when the decision is approved. Councillor Tarnowski?
And just a final question, and we are strictly talking about industrial land sale, right? Like nothing outside of the industrial park?
That's correct, it's only in regards to the industrial park. Monsieur Le Duc?
Also, Mr. Madam Conseil, as suggested earlier, if you feel more comfortable with a higher number, a higher percentage, again, you have an opportunity to say it's not 50 and not 60 or 70, whatever number you feel comfortable with. But there's also another area you can work on if you choose to go there.
So, we have that amendment. Madame Tremblay?
Just for the email, do you have specific of what you're requiring? Like, do you want the evaluation sheet? What do you want as an information? The company name that purchased, how many acres?
Piece of land, this size land was sold to, I'll make another amendment after this as well, but,
And I feel that it's a lot of amendments. Can we defer that as well? And can I take notes and bring it back to next council meeting with all the adjustment that you're saying tonight?
if it's, yeah,
I don't wanna,
It's on the table.
yeah, it's on the table, so.
it's just a suggestion, but I would feel more comfortable to reassess the entire policy and.
Okay, so we have the amendment on the table, so, we have to vote on the amendment because it's put on the table. So let's, on peut voter pour la paix puis defer the main motion.
Yep.
Okay, so at least it'll be the record, we'll, on this amendment, we'll put it forward, the main motion we can defer. So on the amendment, all those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? Carried. I will suggest another amendment, whereas, that we talk about the report, I believe the recommendation is twice a year. I would say quarterly.
Plus the email?
Yeah, well, quarterly, because I want the public to be aware that this is part of the report, that the public is aware that these lands have been sold as well. So by having that report quarterly, then it's just an information report. For information purposes, these lands were sold, that information, the standard information. And then we just accept receipt of the report. So I'll propose that amendment. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Sosi, all those in favor of that amendment? Discussion?
Donc, je faisais juste demander justement, est-ce que ça fait une grosse différence que ça soit 2 fois par année pour le public ou 4? Sur le montant qui rentre?
Ça fait pas, donner plus d'informations, c'est jamais une mauvaise chose. So. So all those in favor of the amendment, that's carried. So now the main motion as amended, we're deferring. So,
You need me to request a deferral?
yeah, motion to defer, moved by Conseiller Lang, seconded by Councillor Tarnowski. So it's deferred to the next meeting, and you have the 3 recommendations from us. And if you want to propose something else, then you're more than welcome to bring it at that point in time. All right, so that was item H. We now go to item K. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
C'est-tu juste K?
HKLQ.
Ashka. Okay. The noise bylaw amendments, oh, that was just to, for deferral as well. So I need a mover, seconder, to put on the table, moved by Conseil Lorrain, seconded by Councilor Tarnowski. Need an amendment, Conseil Lorrain.
Request that we defer this to the next meeting so that staff has the opportunity to check with the Ag Society and with the Lions Club. I have a feeling the confusion is surrounding this additional event going on the 30th. I think that may be where my communication with the resident was as well, but that's probably where that lies.
Okay.
So,
Moved by Conseil Lorrain to defer, and seconded by Councilor Tarnowski. All those in favor to defer? All those opposed? Item is deferred to the next meeting. We now go on to item L, which is the snowplow purchase. I need a mover and seconder to put on table, moved by Councilor Tarnowski, seconded by Councilor Brisson. Questions, comments? Conseil Lorrain?
not happy that there's only one bidder. I understand that we put it out and it's the way it came back, but it always concerns me. However, I did have a quick discussion with Mr. Bougon, and he alleviated some of the concerns I had that, again, would have probably got me in a little bit of trouble earlier. So I thank you for alleviating the concerns, and I'll vote in favor of this item now going forward.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. We move on to item Q. Q, you did it, so that's all. So bylaws, là il y a des changements. Parce qu'il y a bien du stuff qui a été deferred, right? Motion that council approves bylaws 2019-060 to 2019-68 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda, except 61 on enlève, 417 industrial land. That was deferred. 61, 62.
What was 62?
Yeah, because there's two bylaws the same.
Two bylaws for
61 and
472, yeah. Hanson sign was okay, advertising it was okay, kennels was okay. Municipal fees was okay. Je pense que c'est juste les deux. C'est quel numéro?
61, 62.
61, 62, je pense que les autres sont corrects. Les chefs de département veulent faire certain que c'est correct. So, except for items 61 and 60, oh, sorry, we'll start off, put it on the table, moved by Conseil Lorrain, seconded by Councilor Brisson. Need an amendment to remove items 61 and 62, moved by Conseil Lorrain, seconded by Councilor Tarnowski. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. So everything except 61 and 62 has been carried. Puis on les déféré, so automatiquement les bylaws sont déférés aussi. New business reports, we have none. Item 18, other business. Myself, for council meeting of June 3rd. Our meeting of, scheduled on June 3rd, I was wondering if it's possible to move it to June 4th. I am at a conference, the FCM conference in Quebec City. I am returning the 3rd, but I'm coming by train and won't show up in Cornwall till 6 p.m. So I was just wondering if there's a possibility of council agreeing to move it to the next day. Everybody can check their schedules. Conseil Lorrain?
Considering it's my wedding anniversary on the 3rd, I have no problem moving it to the 4th. Sure, my wife will be very happy that we'll go to
You gotta make
nice
sure to do something though.
a nice local establishment like Etienne Brûlé or something like that for the evening.
So everybody else okay with June 3rd?
The only thing is you can't
June
claim-
4th.
You can't claim it was your idea to do that.
So then, at the next meeting of council, we'll have to bring something back because it's, we're changing our timeline, so ça va t'ajuster dans la réglementation.
Mhm.
Okay, so that'll be brought back at the next meeting for approval. Item B, myself for bridge naming. I had a discussion with one of the long-standing members of the community, family, the Prescott-Russell family. And he inquired in regards to, we see Wade Road, we see Laux Park, all sorts of the founding families that have names, but there was nothing in regards to Prescott. And through the conversation, he asked about the bridge in front of Town and Country, where the mills used to be, and he mentioned that there was a mill there for the Prescott family. It's a county bridge. So I've reached out to the county to see if they would be in favor of naming the bridge. Essentially, it would be a green sign at the entrance of the bridge that would say, in regards to standard memorial stuff for the Prescott family. Normally, there would be a copper type of plate that would be anchored into the cement when they redo the bridge, but it was redone not that long ago. I think within the last 10 years they've redone the bridge. So that plaque would only be added later, because they don't want to necessarily put a plaque right now where somebody can just essentially steal the metal. But they were asking if council, they are looking for a resolution from council that we'd be agreeable to submit that name to the counties. Conseiller Laurent?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think obviously then it has us looking at other bridges as well, and there may be other requests that come in, and do those fall under our naming, our naming? I don't think bridges is in our policy, so.
This normally if it was a municipal responsibility, I'd say, yeah, we send it to the committee, or, try and go that route. But in this case, it's a county responsibility, their bridge, and they don't have any policy.
No, I understand this one.
Yeah.
But we have other bridges in
Yeah.
the community, right? That,
Yeah.
I mean, we just gotta make sure that, maybe this is something for staff to take away and come back with adding that to the policy.
I think, Monsieur Leduc, at one point you're coming back with a new process, or?
In the business plan of this year, there's a policy to bring forward about naming other entities of the corporation.
Correct. The other piece that I had is, maybe we wanna, I don't know if we've done it or not, or maybe checking with, I know that the OPP usually are the ones that do bridges, naming of bridges and overpasses.
Usually it's overpasses, I believe.
Okay, I've seen bridges as well, so I just wanna make sure we're not stepping on any toes there as well, so.
No, not based on the discussions I had with the counties. He mentioned the overpasses is because it's provincial responsibility, therefore it's been the OPP that have had their names added. But definitely we can make sure on our end that we're not stepping on any toes.
That's the only thing. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, when we recognize local families, I'm sure that there's a couple of other families in Russell that are long-standing families that at some point we need to look at recognition as well. So I'm obviously on the Emblem side too. And we did a great one today with Shea. I'm sure there's many more out there. So.
Perfect.
C'est-tu le gros pont qui traverse à côté qui traverse la rivière, là, sur la rue principale?
Oui,
Russell?
oui.
Okay.
C'est le pont juste pour aller au département de Feu.
Okay, juste pour assurer c'est le bon pont.
Well, wait.
The one that was blocked off by the
reconstruction
construction years ago.
Yeah.
The fire department had to reroute everything the other way around.
So I guess a resolution at the next meeting, just that we can send to the county saying that we have that we give approval at that point in time. Okay, item C was Councillor Laurent for Pubmasters.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring it up tonight because I think the next meeting that we have is the week of the event. So if anyone's planning on joining, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's their 20th annual event.
Yes.
which I've been in the community since '01, so I was pushing one of the first ones back then, so that's a significant achievement and I know it started, I think it was started by Steve Ion and a bunch of guys, and grew from there, and you can just imagine the money it's raised in this community. I think in the first 12 or 13 years went to cancer research, and the rest now has gone to many different local events in the community, like the kid have taken it up, so it's the 10th, 11th, and 12th of May, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Mother's Day weekend. So great family weekend on the river. The kid do a great job putting it on every year, so look forward to seeing people out.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Can I just add something?
Councillor Associate?
Yeah, just to add to Councillor Laurent's report that they've also invited back previous members of the Postmasters. I was on the committee for 13 years, and they're inviting back everybody who ever helped to celebrate 20 years.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Item D, Councillor Associate for Earth Day.
Yeah, just want to remind everyone, April 22nd, this Easter Monday is Earth Day, so I encourage everyone to do their part, and sometimes people will adopt a section of roadway or a park, and if any of the community groups are doing events, that they could also let the Environmental Advisory Committee know, and then because sometimes we recognize people for the work they're doing, so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Associate. Conseiller Brisson?
I was just wondering, because I heard that some other places, and that during that day, if there was some group that wanted to pick up garbage and things like that, is the municipality supplying the bags and the gloves? I've seen that somewhere else, and I think it was here too, but, and if we were doing any publicity about it.
Which day was it, Councillor?
Earth Day's April 22nd, but we had discussed that at the AC. Monsieur Bourgon, did you want to add to that?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, I was gonna add to Councillor Brisson's comment that we did reach out to all schools to provide gloves and bags. And if you do clean up a part of the roadway, our garbage collection will pick up those bags throughout that week, like after the Monday.
I want to include as well the
Like we did that in the past as well. It's not it's an initiative that we've been doing for years.
yeah. Similarly, on April 28th, the Scouts and Girl Guides will be cleaning a portion of North Russell Road. They've been in contact with our administration, and there'll be some bylaw on hand to help with security, control the road, and there will be advertisement that's put out on the road that day. And similarly, we'll be supplying the gloves and bags and that kind of stuff. So, okay. Item E, Conseiller Brisson.
Oui, c'est juste que on a vu avec les annonces du budget de Ford que la nouvelle réglementation, c'est que dans les parcs, il va allouer pour pouvoir avoir la consommation d'alcool, savoir si ça va affecter nous autres, comment que ça marche, est-ce que la province a overridé sur notre politique, ou si c'est nous autres qui...
La réglementation ou le budget, l'annonce du budget, c'est qu'il donne la permission à les municipalités de mettre quelque chose en loi. So, ça va être vraiment à la municipalité de décider si on veut permettre ça dans nos parcs. Madame Victor?
Merci, Monsieur le maire et membres du conseil. Donc, nous avons une politique d'alcool municipale. Alors, si notre politique d'alcool est plus sévère que la province, c'est tant mieux. Donc, si, exemple, la province permettrait d'avoir de l'alcool des parcs, mais nous, on ne le permet pas, c'est nous qui overrule.
Ouais.
C'est ça.
Si
Comme
jamais-
exemple, je vais donner un exemple simple. Toutes les installations où on vend de l'alcool en Ontario, on a le droit de fermer à 2 heures, mais pas nous. On ferme à 1 heure. C'est notre politique d'alcool. Donc, on est plus sévère, c'est correct. On ne peut pas être plus limite. On ne peut pas fermer à 3 heures. Non, on peut fermer à 1 heure.
Alors, c'est pour ça que j'aimerais mieux le mentionner, parce que de façon que c'était mis que pour le public, justement, que, pour pas qu'il arrive dans les parcs, dire « Ah, Ford m'a donné la permission de boire dans les parcs », que ça soit mis clair aussi là,
Ouais,
en
non, ça
publicité.
on a l'opportunité de faire des changements de notre réglementation si c'est la direction que le conseil veut prendre. Ça peut venir plus en détail, discussion. Conseiller Laurent?
Does the fact that we could be more strict in hours give us the ability to further restrict the use of cannabis then in public areas? Because you just said we can do it in alcohol.
I don't believe, they've been pretty clear on that item, that it's under the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, and wherever you can smoke a cigarette, you can smoke cannabis as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madame Bourdeau?
We can make it more restrictive for our township properties, and we're in the middle of preparing a bylaw, and you should see it soon.
Councillor Sosi?
Just add to that, because people can't smoke in our parks or on our sporting fields right now. It's like smoke anything. So, I mean, we can certainly add cannabis to that.
There's distance from play structures and playgrounds, but it doesn't cover the entire park or like the nature trail and stuff like that.
So, but there's something coming back at a later point in time.
Yes.
Okay. Conseiller Brisson?
J'ai mentionné les parcs, mais est-ce que ça inclut aussi même les stationnements comme à l'Arena, puis des choses comme ça? Ça, c'est pas un parc, l'Arena.
On a-tu reçu la documentation de la province encore? So we haven't received anything from the province. We've heard it verbally, but they haven't sent information. Once there's information that's sent, they'll be able to bring it back to council, and we'll be able to have further discussion on that. I'll add item F, just because I noticed the calendar, and we won't have a meeting before then, but on May 3rd, May 3rd, is Ladies' Night, and it's in honor of Pitt this year. So that's another great event that is a great, brings a lot of people from the exterior of the township, raises a lot of fun for good causes, so it's something worth mentioning. Ladies' Night on May 3rd, so anybody who's watching who hasn't got their tickets yet, you can reach out to the Ag Society, and there's more information on social media as well. Conseiller Larry?
Sorry, just because we're mentioning the fact that it's for Deborah Canada and Jonathan Pitter, just a quick recognition as well for one of our local companies who about significant in our industrial park, or the TIF group, put on a hockey tournament on Friday, this past Friday, in support of Deborah Canada as well. Although it wasn't in our municipality, I think the arenas were booked here. It was a corporate event that was put on, and it was at the Minto Arena, and I heard that they had a phenomenal turnout. So
Good to hear. Okay, move on item 19, public consultation hearing. We have none. Item 20, closed session. A motion to move into closed session at the hour of 8:42 p.m. to address matters pertaining to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, consider matters relating to 1. Update on proposed or pending acquisition of land in Emblem. Under Section 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition land by the municipality or a local board. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Tonoski. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. We're now in closed session. Thank you very much, everyone.